Good morning, honorable guests, ASA Board of Directors and fellow architects. I am Pacharin Gurnet.
I'm Hansa Silachai Panit. We are going to be the co-MCs for today's sessions.
Welcome to ASA International Forum 2017, a much-awaited activity that has brought our speakers from all over the world to share their ideas and tell us how they work.
Today is the second day of the ASA International Forum. We will have another 3 interesting sessions with internationally recognized architects from around the world. Estudio Barozzi, Veiga from Spain, Shinko Masuda, and Katsuhisa Otsubo architects from Japan, and Studio Switzerland from Germany.
Before we introduce our first speaker, please allow me to remind you to turn off your mobile phone or switch it into silent mode. And also, the one who have a headset, please turn it into please control the volume into appropriate level, not disturb the audience next to you. And also, the parking stamp can also stamp in front of the hall.
This year, we are honored to present Fabrizio Barassi, the founder of Estudio Barossi Veiga. The firm is Barcelona-based architectural office founded in 2004. The office has won many design competitions, including the refurbishment of the Palace Santa Clara in Ubeda, the auditoriums in Aguilas, the headquarters for the D.O. Ribera del Duero, the Philharmonic Hall in Switzerland, the Cantonal Museums of Fine Arts in Lausanne, the extensions of the Cantonal Museum for Fine Arts in Chur, and the music school in Brunico and the townhouse in Zurich.
Among many international awards, the office also received the AJAZ Award 2007, the International Architecture Award Barbara Capuchin 2011, the Gold Medal for Italian Architecture 2012, and the Young Talent of Italian Architecture 2013 award. Also in 2014, the office also selected to be a part of Design Vanguard from their Architectural Record magazine. In 2015, the studio won the Miss Van der Rohe Award, granted by the European Union.
Now, please welcome Fabrizio Barassi.
So, good morning. Good morning to everyone. First of all, thank you very much at the Architectural of Siamese Architect for this kind invitation. It's really a pleasure to be here with you, and for me, it's an honor to have the opportunity to present to you some of our projects. For the presentation, for today's presentation, I will present you 5 of our projects and 1 installation. And what can I say? I think that for you, the main interesting thing is discover our experience in a way, discover our way of work and why we do this type of project or design. As you heard in the presentation, I'm Italian. My partner Alberto is Spanish. And we opened the office in 2004 in Barcelona. And in a way, I think that our biography has marked a lot also our way of work. When we started working in 2004, we were quite young, but we had the possibility to work in different countries around Europe. It was a very new condition in a way, because we had this possibility that maybe 10 years before was impossible for a young architect to work abroad. So in a way, when we started to work, we started to be interested in discover how to create or design or architecture in different contexts, in different culture, in different situation. So step by step, our research has been focused on the idea of what is specific, of the idea of specificity. We started to be interested in discover which are the elements able to create or able to establish the identity of the different places and try to discover which are the method, the architectural method in order to highlight the identity of different of the different places. No? So before starting with the project, I have to say that probably the main theme of our research is discover a possible balance between the specificity of the place and the autonomy of the form. So what it means, this is a paradox. It is impossible to be at the same time specific and autonomous. But you have to believe me that for us is absolutely crucial, this dichotomy. We work, or we try to work, discover which are the elements able to establish an intimate, an emotional, or a sentimental link with a context, with a culture, with a reality in which we work. But at the same time, we try to make an architecture able to transcend the context in which it places. Because an architecture, I think, should belong to a place, but at the same time, it should belong to all places. No? And exactly there, in this paradox, we work. And the project that I will present you, I hope they are a translation of this idea. For example, the first installation, the first project I will present, it's the installation we did for the Biennale, for the Venice Biennales last year. In this project, we had the opportunity to reflect again about our own work. The curator asked us which was our battle, our everyday battle. No? So we start to reflect about our work, and we start to think that our installation should be a reflect of a way to present to the other a methodology in a way. And we titled this installation a sentimental monumentality, because this title is an oxymoron. It's still a paradox. Something sentimental, something able to establish an emotional or relationship with something cannot be at the same time monumental, because the monumental is something related to an autonomous form, an independent thing in a way. But in the same time, in this paradox, for us is important. So we did this simple element with this simple, very pure, very basic, very archaic in a way, column. And we interpreted this installation not like an installation, but like a project in a way. So we decided to work inside of this very beautiful hall, is the Corderie, no? And we try to establish this relationship with the site. In a way, the project is something site-specific. We had a new column inside of all this system of column. No? So this project, in a way, is something that tries to be specific for this place, because it rises from the place in which it's placed. No? It's just a column more, in a way. There are no other idea than to try to establish this connection, but at the same time, it's a column, it's a primal object, it's a fundamental object, it's something autonomous, it's something archetypical in a way. No? So with this project, what we try to explain is our methodology, something that it belongs to this place, it rises from that place in which it's placed, but at the same time, as I said before, it belongs to all places. No? It's something more archetypical. And I think that all the other projects we have done, they are marked on this contradiction, on this paradox. No? Also, this emotional or sentimental, as we told, links with the space, we try to establish it also working with the material, for example. No? As you say here, no? There is something able to link more an independent object with something. But this idea, they were present also in the first project we built some years ago. The first project we built was basically an office building for an authority that controlled the quality of the wine in a region in the center of Spain. This building is placed in north of Madrid in a very old territories, no, very flat, very horizontal. And wait, I take this one. No? And the project is placed in a small town, and it's placed just in the limit of the urban here. No? And in a way, this specific condition, this geographical condition, has marked the project. No? The project, in a way, it is an interpretation of this condition, a singularization of this duality, in a way. So, from one side here, the project just starts to recompose and finish the urban tissue here, and from the other side, as we will see, it tried to establish the limit of the urban in front of the natural landscape. So in a way, this duality that came from a geographical condition has marked the design of the project. No? From one side, here, with this small element, it's something very sensible to the context, and from the other side, with this archetypical element that we will see that it is a tower, it's try to establish another type of relationship with the landscape. So when we see the project from the distance, the project, it is just an archetypical tower that, as I say, mark the finish and establish a clear limit between the urban and the natural landscape. It is an autonomous element. You have to imagine that this landscape, it's as I say, it's an old landscape. It's a very flat, natural landscape where appear small town with medieval tower and so on. You know? And so, but if we go closer to the building, we start to discover that, in a way, the tower, it is not alone. It's not just an independent object places there, but it's raised from the pre-existing element that hosted before these offices for this company. And there is here something, a very small link with the pre-existing. No? And if we continue, we start to see how the building wants to be specific for this place, but at the same time, it is something more autonomous. And this image for me is quite relevant, quite important, because it's a visual translation, has this contradiction, or has this dichotomy that I said to you before. From one side, the building is something autonomous, independent. It conforms about its own internal rule, but it raised from the pre-existing one in a way. So it starts to be specific for this size. No? In a way, it starts with this joint. It creates here a plaza, a platform, and then it became more and more independent. No? And the tower contained the most important program, the more representative program, and the basement, there are the other offices and etc. But what is also very, very important in this project, and also in the other project that we will see, that all our project started with a reflection about the public space. Here, for example, this drawing that represents the main level of the building, in the middle of the project, there isn't a building, but there is a plaza. In the middle of a private building, there is a public plaza. So in a way, the architecture is just the frame of the urban. No? And so this image that they represent this plaza, it's for us like a manifesto. What is important here? What is important here is not the architecture in itself, but is what's happened in between the architecture. This central void, this public void in the middle of architecture, it was give meaning to the building. It's a private building, but that's able to return to the city something. No? So in a way, this project, but also other of our project, the architecture is just the frame of the public space. No? And we try to work in a very essential way. Here, for example, there is just one material, that the stone that cover the entire building, the floor, the walls, the roof, and they try to create something more monolithic, no? Something also primitive or basic or archaic in a way. No? And so in this plaza also we try to establish a kind of balance between a more intimate space here and the openness of the landscape. No? But so if we arrive to the building from the other side, from the town, the project has another type of scale. It's almost disappear in a way. No? It's tried to be very sensible and very integrated into the context. There is just this small ramp from here, and then where you can enter to this public plaza. We are interested in probably in creating some type of microcosm, no? Discover how historical element or contextual element could be transformed in other things, and discover unexpected scenario. No? Here, the new building and the old building, they are related in a way. Everyone has its own autonomy, but together they are able to create an unexpected scenario. And I think that our work as architects, it's also focused on this, discover the unexpected possibility that a site has in a way. No? And we are not so interested in create objects, but we are interested in create the connection between objects, or the interstitial space that appears in between different elements. But all our projects start also with a very pragmatic and clear program organization. This small element that completes the site, in reality, are a very big skylight able to bring light into the building. But from a programmatic point of view, the project also is very radical in a way. In order to create this plaza, that plaza, open this plaza in the middle of the project, we put a lot of the program underground in order to have space above in order to create this public plaza. So every project has a small secret in a way. We try to focus our attention on how to create public space and discover how to organize the program in order to have the possibility to create that public space. This is an image of the lower auditorium with this big skylight. As we spend a lot of time in order to discover which type of materiality the project should have in order to establish this intimate relationship with a context. Here, for example, the building is in stone with the same local stone of the previous building in order to give continuity to something, and transmit the same gravity, the same solidity of the original building. You have to imagine that during the time, with the passing of the years, the building will transform, and step by step it will be more and more linked with the original one. And here, for example, it is important to notice that this facade, the building is not built with ventilated facade, but we forced our client in order to conform the building with a real stone facade in order to transmit the same gravity or mass that the original one. And speaking about the materiality means also speaking about time. Discover how the building could transform over the year. So it's a way to control or reflect about what means the time into the architecture. And some years ago, we finalized a project for a philharmonic in Szczecin. Szczecin is a city in the north of Poland, very close to Berlin in Germany. This image was taken from our office there. We rent an office there during the construction phase. And the image is not so good, but it represents quite well how this city is. Szczecin is a city that was basically destroyed during the Second World War. And in a way, he lost his identity, in a way. And now it is conformed by a patchwork of different urban elements. There are Gothic monuments. There are part of socialist houses from the 16th and 17th. There are a part of medieval city. So in a way, the city is a collection of fragments, in a way. And for us, it's important that a project establish a relationship with the context in which it's placed. In this case, was for us important that the new Philharmonic establish some type of relationship with this context, with this urban condition. So this old drawing represent our closest neighborhood. Is the building on the side of the new Philharmonic. And when I speak about specificity, I want to say that specificity means also discover how to learn from what exists. And this drawing represent or discover to us which are probably the main identitarian element of this type of architecture. These drawings speak about mass, speak about verticality, speak about repetition in a way. So starting from there, we try to reinterpret it about through an autonomous thinking, because speaking about or reflect about specificity, it doesn't mean nothing if you don't filter it about your own interpretation. And the result of this interpretation is this model, is our proposal. It's something that is a building that's still speaking about verticality, repetition, mass, order, composition in a way. Speaking about all these elements that, from our point of view, were identitarian for this context. And the Philharmony is the first step of a more bigger urban renovation of a quarter that now is quite depressed in a way. No? And from a urban point of view, the building just tried to fix a corner, no? Create a urban corner inside of a quarter quite fragmented in a way. No? In this case, the projects fulfill the entire site. No? And the result of our reflection is this image. I can say that all the elements that were in this building, that was our neighborhood, are transformed and converted in something new into the new project. The project, it's tried to reflect, it's something, it represents a, I don't know, there is something, it's like a stark monumental element in a way, very simple, where the only expressive element is conformed by the roof. No? This very steeped roof that conform the landscape of the city in a way inform also the project. But you know, when you design a project, there are many things that happen in your mind, and also we try to establish maybe a kind of relationship with this expressionist condition that is still present in this area. So without any type of nostalgia, we modify the material of the building, no, to give independency to the new project in front of the existing building. But the only sign of the project is the roof, because we try to be very synthetic, very basic in a way, but also because when you arrive close to the building, you can see the building only from, there are a lot of trees around, so from the distance you will see the building floating over the trees. No? And here in this case, the reflection about the central, the public space is still the key element of the project. In this case, there is a very big foyer here that occupies the half of the ground floor. Basically, it is conceived like an inner plaza, in a way, an inner public plaza. No? So, in this case, the relationship with the public space is not outside of the building, but it became inside. This space is conformed by the natural light coming from the skylight, by the shape of the two concert halls, and from the vertical connection element of the stairs. So, in a way, this foyer, it's a public plaza, because in a way, what is important is not the architecture in itself, but what can happen inside of a building. Our work as architects is to give the possibility to the citizen to use the building and transform it and have activity inside. So in a way, at the end, the architecture is just a background where things happen. And this gives meaning to to our work and to the architecture. So in this project, like the other project, we try to solve a very, very complex problem with simplicity. There are the two concert hall, there are two boxes, no? Inside of this crown. This crown contains all the technical elements, vertical element, etc. And the interstitial space that appears in between of this element is the public space. No? So we try to make project very, very simple, very clear, very understandable in a way. No? And then there are several levels, and in the upper level there is an exhibition area here that connect the two main systems, because inside of the building there is an internal loop where the people can go up here or with these stairs here, move around the building, and they rejoin here in this area. No? So it is important that the building of this dimension should be very easily understandable in a way. This exhibition area is suspended over the foyer here, and you have a visual connection for all the spaces. So, and they permit that the visitor are oriented inside of the building. But the main program of a symphonic hall is for sure the concert hall. And the challenge was how to design a contemporary concert hall for classical music. So we start to work basically with three elements, with the section, light, and with the ornament. The section, as you said here, it is basically a reinterpretation of a traditional and classical typology of the Eastern European concert hall. No? There is a very flat floor here and then. No? So this is the first step in order to transform a tradition in something new. But then we discovered that also starting to have in mind this idea of ornamentation that conform the classical concert hall, and we start thinking that probably starting with a detail like this, with an ornamental detail, we probably was able to conform the entire concert hall. So basically this concert hall, it's conformed by a decoration or ornamentation on a large scale. But what is really interesting is this ornamentation is not really just an ornament, because all these surfaces are made like this in order to achieve the best acoustic. There are really a very high-tech element in a way. No? So if we are able to join decoration with technique, the ornament is not an ornament. It's something, it's another things. No? And so in a way, in this case, we try to do this, discover how an idea of an ornament is able to create something performative for a building. And here, the other, as I say, the other element for us very important was the light. The light was another element able to give a continuity to a tradition. And the light also transformed the perception of the concert hall inside, the materiality of the concert hall. But we also work with a very unusual material here. The concert hall, it's conformed with a gold leaf, a synthetic gold leaf, no? In order to, again, give continuity to something and discover an unusual or an unexpected use of this materiality in order to conform a contemporary concert hall. And starting from a very simple element like this triangular surface, we was able to conform the complexity of the whole concert hall. And the facade, it is still in a such of ornament. The facade is composed by a steel profile painted in white with behind opaline glass. And the facade is very, very sensitive with the light. The perception of the building change in function of the light. No? But also when the night approach and the building start to be in use, the perception of the building change dramatically in a way. The building start to become less solid, no? And it changed radically because the light is the element that conform the building. And in a way, the building express that inside there is some type of activities. No? So the building, something that was solid and monolith, it became another, it changed its materiality to something more lighter. And during the night, at the end, only the light conformed the shape of the building. And then again, the next morning, the building became again more solid. No? So in a way, the main achievement of this project was to create a building able to establish some type of relationship with this very fragmented context in which it's placed. And in this image, probably you can start to feel how the building is related with the other element that appears in this part. But at the end, the great success of this building is not again the architecture in itself, but is, unfortunately, this building has been very well received from the citizen there, and now it is really a new social cornerstone of this city. And for a public building, it's the main goal, I think, in a way. So, recently, last summer, we finalized a fine art museum in Switzerland, in Chur. Chur is a small town close to Zurich. The project is an extension of an old building, and this image represents the actual museum. It's a building quite weird, a little bizarre, but very interesting in a way. It is a Neo-Palladian building built in the 18th. It's influenced by the Rotonda, by Palladio, but there is also a strange oriental ornament that appear here or there or here. There are two sphinx. Because this was the house of a very rich man that import textile from Egypt, and in homage to this country that make it rich, it create this very oriental ornamentation. And this oriental condition probably was interpreted also by Peter Zumthor, that in 1982 made the renovation of this building, and he had this winter garden on these two sides here. And also Zumthor transformed the basement here in an exhibition area. So you can notice at the entrance, it's quite strange. In Switzerland, you find a sphinx there. You don't know exactly why, but it's there. So it's funny, but at the same time, this is something that it is identitary for this building. It represents what is this building there, no? And around this building, there is a small garden quite small romantic garden with some sculpture there. So the competition that we won was very, very complex because they asking us to place a very big program inside of this site, no? in that part. So, and here you can see this conformation of the historical building based on La Rotonda. No? So this, the condition of the original building for us was very important. This idea, this is the Rotonda by Palladio, this idea of an absolute building was important for us in a way, in order to discover how to create the new building. So what we done was very, very simple. We just extract the axes from there, import them to the other building, and we try to make a project very simple, super simple, very small, in order also to use the garden around the building and try to make the garden also around here, in order to use the garden as a link between the two buildings. So, in a way, what we try to do is like create a diptych in a way. This is a painting by Piero della Francesca that in the same painting there are two faces. One is the man and the other is the woman. Each one has its own personality, its own autonomy, it's something independent, but both together they conform another element in a way. So what we try to do is exactly the same. We try to create in a way a diptych, in a way. The same identitary element that appears in this original building are transformed into the new addition in a way. Each one it's an autonomous building, but each one it's conformed with the same conceptual elements. And again, the building, in a way, it's something super specific for this condition, but it preserves its autonomy, in a way, as I said at the beginning of the lecture. No? And which are these elements? I can say that our project, in a way, it's a neo-Palladian building, because as we see, the plan is conformed by a repetition, a very regular sequence of room, in a way. It's conformed by a double symmetry, no? That it becomes from the original building. And there is this kind of bas relief that conform the facade, create an ornamentation, and it tries to create a subtle link with the decoration that conform the original building. So for this reason, I can see that the same conceptual element of the original one are conforming also the new project. No? But what is important that sometimes the people, the architect, when you look the image very fast, you don't realize, is that what is important here is not the object in itself. For sure it is important, but the success of this urban conformation, it's because of this small garden, this stone garden that surround the building and permit that to link the original building, the other building that there are there, with this platform. No? So again, like in the first project I present you, in a way the architecture is what's happened when you start thinking at the beginning about the public space. It looks maybe not so important, but I can assure you that for us was the main concern, in a way, how to create a small public space around the building able to create a base for these two buildings. No? And okay, as I say, the buildings conform by a double symmetry, no? And as in the Philharmony, the ornamentation, it became a technical element able to conform all the technical elements, ventilation, and so on. No? So it's not an ornamentation, it's something able to conform, it's an element of the architecture. No? And as I say, every time there is a secret. No? In order to conform this public space here, we took a very radical decision. We placed all the exhibition area underground here, and we let only the public function use outside here. No? So in this way, we was able to reduce the size of the building, reduce the footprint, and give importance to the public area. And the connection with the historical building, with the exhibition area made by Peter Zumto became here with these stairs in this part. So the foyer, it's again a public area, and the relationship with the historical building, it's quite evident. No? There is this the facade of the historical building is the facade of the new building. And also what is important to know is that this area is the foyer, but at the same time it is the delivery area, because here in this area can enter a truck, no? And the art, here there is a big elevator. So we try to combine also the program in order to compact at the maximum the building. So this simple drawing that I personally love, it's, I think, one of the drawing more synthetic, more basic, more elementary that we did, because there is everything here. The building is composed just by the structure. The structure contains the core, contains the elevation. The composition of the building and the structure is the same things. So it's expressed our effort to be synthetic in a way, no? And this plan and this plan, they are balancing in a way. There is these stairs, this element, there is the portal hill, no? Everything, it's simple but quite clear, no? Here, this is the stairs that go down. This is the first floor underground. The museum is in concrete. And here is the plan of the first floor, and you see that basically it's composed by a sequence of room, no, in a Palladian way, no, and there is a loop, no, to visit the exhibition here. These are some images of this museum that is basically devoted to contemporary art. This is connection to the other building. But in the second floor, again, you see how a complex program, again, it's solved in a very simple way. There are just the two core. This space, it's for temporary exhibition, very open, no? And that is, there are no more, no? But the right position of the precise position of the core of the structure permit to conform the entire program with simplicity, no? And these are, and the main achievement of this museum that is impossible to told you just with the image, that when you visit the museum and you go down 20 meters underground, you don't feel that you are underground because of the proportion of the space, because of the dimension, because of the central circulation, no? And this is, I think, an important, it was the most risky part of the project, but I think that if some of you will have the opportunity to visit the building, I think that is an important achievement here, no? So we also, the materiality of the building, as I say, it's absolutely important. The facade is composed by a sequence of this element in concrete. There are prefab concrete elements that conform the entire facade. But you have to notice that when I see that for us it's important to discover how to work with specificity is not only to reflect about the form, but it's also important to discover how you can work in a different context. For example, the Philharmony in Szczecin is basic a handcrafted element, because in Poland there was a tradition, there still has a tradition able to conform this handmade element. So the concert hall is basically an handmade element. But here in Switzerland, there is a high technology with concrete, with prefab concrete, that permit us to achieve this type of facade, where with the concrete we are able to make edges with only 1 centimeter. So it is important also to interpret how you can work in different conditions. No? And here there is this is the entrance of the delivery. It's inside of this very symmetrical building there is a disconnection in a way, no? And we represent it with this steel door here inside. Okay, but at the end we discovered that what we have done is not so far away from what we seen the first time we visit the building, where in the atelier we discover these 2 beautiful sculptures by Giacometti, no? A man and a woman placed there over the table, each one with its own personality, but at the same, but together they are able to conform another conditions. No? Now actually we are working also in another museum in Lausanne, again in Switzerland. This project is very different from the other one. The site is very huge. It's all this area, close to the railways here. And this site in the site there are several industrial elements. Here there is an historical building that was for the maintenance of the train, no? And here there is this element. You have to fix on this element. So, and this is a view of the historical building from inside. In this case, this drawing represents the original area, no? The site, very big, and then with the presence of this building. We spent during the competition a lot of time discover how to transform again the historical building into a new museum. But at the end, after a few months, we discovered that probably in this case, this strategy was not so good. We start to discover that, again, before thinking in architecture, was important to discover an urban strategy able to create public space. So we start thinking that probably was important in this project was combine urban and architecture. Like, for example, in the Uffizi. This is a plan of the Uffizi Museum in Florence, where the architecture and the urban and the plaza in the middle is the same. There are no difference between architecture and urban. So we took a very radical, sober, but at the same time radical decision. We decided to demolish a big part of the original building in order to create this new big plaza, no? Able to connect this area with the plaza in front of the rail station, and able in this way try to conform this new site linked with the city. Because in this project was about to create a new fine art museum, a new museum for photography, and a new design museum. So now the 2 other museums are condensed here in one only building. But what's important in this project was, again, this public area. So our intention would try first to create a public space and then discover which kind of architecture is important for this site. So what is important here is, again, this public space, no? Able to, and the architecture, the three museums, again, are the frame of the urban space. The Fine Art Museum, Design Museum, and the Photography Museum. And then the building is again specific for this condition. This area, it's an industrial area in the center of the city, linked with the train station. So the new museum is basically like a kind of industrial building. It's a building very abstract, very rigorous, very simple in a way. So when we, after discover this urban strategy, the architecture arrived very, very easy in a way. No? So it's something, the building is something massive, it's something solid. No? It's try to reinterpret this industrial condition that still exists on this area. So this is the general drawing of the master plan. But after, in order to create the urban space, we decided to demolish something. But then the question was how to preserve the memory of a place if you demolish something. So we start thinking that probably we was able to preserve the identity and the memory of a place through a constellation of fragments. So we decided to preserve a small element of the pre-existing building, and we transform this small element into the main compositive element of the new museum. This museum is conformed by a classical sequence of elements. There is a background, a neutral background in front of a figure that is this small element. So in a way, still the project is something that became from the original building. So from one side, from that side, the museum is very close, very close in order to protect also the art from the train here. And from the other side, the museum is very open, very permeable, in order to create life in this public space. So the museum is basically an inhabited wall. No? In the ground floor, there are all the main public spaces, and this small pre-existing element is not something not relevant, but is the crucial element of the new museum, because here there is the new foyer exactly in the axis of this fragment. So what we saw before, this very beautiful arch window that for us was the most beautiful or emotional element of the pre-existing building, it is transformed in something new, and it is the main element of the new foyer. Then there are the stairs go up, and here is the second floor. Like in Kur or like in Stettin, you can feel how a very big museum, this museum is about 18,000 square meters, is solved with 5 elements. There are basically 5 cores here that they are able to divide the program, they conform the main structure of the building. So again, we fight in order to condense everything in a very few elements. No? And I think that this drawing represents quite well our, or try to represent quite well our intention. No? And then there is the second floor, it's conformed by natural light, and there is a very special ceiling but maybe this is for another presentation. And then the last project I present you, it's a different project from the other side, because last year we have the opportunity to design a house. And for us was quite unusual, because during this year we designed basically public building. So, and also for us was a different project, because for the first time we designing something in a very natural landscape. In this landscape there are no pre-existing building, there are no small village, there are nothing. There are just a very beautiful landscape. How to design the house there. So how Louis Bourgeois remember us, our effort in thinking in design, it's raised from our very primal, very intimate intention. No? So, and which was our main intention, very important for us. For us, what for this project is important, as I say, is not the object in itself, but it's what's happened in between different objects. So in this case, we thought that was more important for us try to create a place than try to create just an object. So we decide to place the house. I have to say also, this is not a house, it's a weekend house. It's just like a small refuge to spend there just 1 or 2 days, isolated, no? Just to relax. It's not a house for living day by day, and this is important also in order to discover the project. So we decide to place the house on the top of a hill, because our land was very, very big, and we decide where to place the house. And we start to place some very simple pavilion on the top of this hill. No? So the house is composed basically for 4 pavilions, each one dedicated to one function. And in the middle of this, in between of this pavilion, it's where the life appear, because this house is for summer, for spend some days, and for living basically outside. No? And the house is placed in the area on the south of Barcelona, an area where also in summer it's very, very warm. So the plan of the house is again very schematic, very simple. There is an entrance pavilion here, the house with the living room, an exterior area here, and the swimming pool. And there is a platform here that link these 4 pavilions. And the entrance to the house is from there. No? So we start to artificialize the nature. So we place this plinth here in order to make it the platform horizontal, and we place the pavilion over this artificial plinth. And the house, it's basically is just a shelter. It's just something able to protect you, no more than this. No, this is the first floor. It's the living room, the kitchen. There are 2 stairs, then a corridor, and in the second, into the plinth, there is the most intimate part of the house, with some houses open to the valley here. So what we try to define, it's create an experience, no? Has the client asking now. So we try to create an experience for living there in relationship with the nature. So the car, you have to let the car very far away. You take a path into the wood, and you arrive here. You discover that exists a small pavilion, an empty pavilion, You enter there. There is water here that refresh. You can feel the freshness of the water. And then you cross this entry pavilion and entry there, and you discover your microcosm in a way. No? The house is not an object. The space is something. What we are interested in is how which type of relationship the people that will live there will establish with the surrounding nature. No? It's so there is the platform here, the 4 pavilion, and as I said before, for us was important more than the architecture was create a place, no? Your own place. No? So here is the house, the swimming pool, and this place for have lunch on the open air. This is the other view from the other side. This is the entry pavilion there. And the entire house is conformed with this element. It's a concrete box conformed with this element that it is something in between. It is not a column, but it is not a window. It's something in between. It's just something able to create a shelter to protect this area. No? And where we need an interior space, we just had the carpentry and the glazing, and we close it when it is necessary. No? It's more about to create a structure in a way. This is the living room. This is the space to have lunch outside, and this is the swimming pool where the nature is filtered from with this structure. So what I hope that with this presentation you have a more general idea about our work, and if for finish this presentation, I have to say that for us probably the most important thing is try to preserve the diversity and the uniqueness of every places. We try to work against this idea of a generic architecture that standardize the architectonical thinking. We try to discover what is specific and identitary in every single places, because a place is not only something physical, but is something related with a culture, with a tradition, with a memory, with in a place there are many different reality. And I think that our effort is try to preserve the uniqueness and the diversity of things. And thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barassi. We will begin our Q&A session now. And you are very welcome to ask the question in Thai. We will have the moderator translated your questions to the speaker today. Or if you would like to ask the question directly, you can ask for the microphone, and then the staff will hand out the microphone to you.
Next, please welcome Assistant Professor M.L. Piyalada Tawip Langsiporn, the moderator for this session on the stage.
Hello again, and thank you for, a fantastic and thoughtful lecture, I would say. And actually for those of us, most of us actually, who wouldn't know that actually Fabrizio just arrived here yesterday, like midday, and he'll have to leave Bangkok again tonight already. So a very short trip, specifically just to deliver this lecture to us. So we are, at least I feel privileged already to have you here, and thanks again for sharing your thoughts and your
Thank you for
wonderful projects. Yeah. So let's say what strikes me quite a bit about your projects are that they're really wonderful. Actually, I love them. They're wonderful and they're powerful, right? They're not something only like visually pleasing to look at or things like that, but they seem to what's the word? I would say visceral. Like they kind of punch you in the gut in some way, and so these qualities, along with the almost like a tension, right, between the old and the new, and between what you use the term specificity of place and the kind of autonomy of form or your internal logic, which are actually very clear, especially when you show us the drawings of the plans and the sections, right? But what I appreciate most, and we had this talk earlier, was about the way that your architecture seems to step aside or to make room for public space. And so it's almost like you have a constant dialogue with the urban, right, with the fabric of the town that the building's in. And we talked earlier that that's something very European, right? And so speaking of that, you said that your background or your biography informs your work quite a bit. And to recap on that, you're Italian, and your education and your practice, I think the practice, in fact, is really international. You mentioned earlier atypical or unconventional in the way that, well, most of us here or even anywhere in the world would normally start out local and then go regional and then out really international. But then you started out all over Europe already. And you started out public as well, right? As opposed to small to big. And so would those kind of profile, would that kind of background affect your architectural thinking or your design thinking in some way? Especially the notion of context or specificity. Could you like to?
Yeah, but you mentioned a lot of very interesting questions, no? I say that we are an atypical office because, for example, if you analyze a little bit our history, we started since the beginning with a quite big project. We made an auditorium that today I didn't present, but it was our really first project. So we start with very big project, and now we arrive to a domestic condition. So it's at inverse. Yeah. We start working abroad, and now, fortunately, we have some commission worker to work more locally in Barcelona, where we are. So it's again is from away, and also. We are based in Barcelona, but I am Italian, and Alberto it's not from Barcelona at all. So for all these reasons, we are quite atypical, no? But for example, when we start working in 2004, no, quite young. I was 26 or 7, 8.
Just out of school.
No, very. We had the possibility to work abroad, for example. So in our case, this intimate relationship with a local context that probably is the ideal condition for an architect, it just doesn't exist. doesn't exist because we didn't have the condition for that, because we went to Barcelona, we started the office there. So really we start talking about how, which type of architecture we have to work in order to confront with different places, no? So also for this we are quite atypical, because all our friends from Barcelona, they start in a more common way, no? Start with, I don't know, the small house for the family, and then they grow up, no? So, and this condition has marked a lot our way of work. And now, the step by step, now we start to work in US also, not only in Europe. So probably it's another step also in order to discover which type of architecture we have to, in which type of direction we have to go.
Yeah, because in the US, it seems that the notion of context would have to be really interpreted in a really different way.
Exactly, but for me, what is important, so today and in all the lecture I spent, I used to spend a lot of time speaking about context, about what is specific, no? But in my interpretation, a context is not only something physical,
right?
No, it's a context. When I say context, for me it's important to interpret a cultural condition, or maybe an atmosphere that exists in a place, which is not directly linked with something, no? But when you're thinking in a landscape, in a context, in a city, you have your intellectual idea about that. Maybe it's formed because you have read something about it, or you have there is a book that you know, or a cinema, a film or something, no? So a context, it's multiple in a way. It's physical, but it's also sensorial. You know, you can feel it. No, it's about atmosphere. It's about economical condition and a cultural condition.
Yeah, or even materiality. I mean,
also, for example,
I think. Well, I look through occasions when you lecture elsewhere, and it seems that today you talk a lot more about materiality, and that gives us. I think it's refreshing, in a way that it gives us a more subtle and non-literal way to address the problem of context or representation of context, right? And so I'm glad that we get to hear that.
In fact, today I didn't speak about that, but I like to say that we are interesting in discover which is the right tone of the building, no? Or the right tonality in a way, no? So sometimes for us it's not so, design architecture is not about creating a language. We are not interested in, as we didn't say before, we are not really interested in create our own language, but we are very interested in discover which is the right tonality of one building in relationship with a context. Sometimes, for example, if you arrive to Stettin and see the La Philharmonie, the Stettin has this stark monumentality in a way, so you can feel and see the presence of the building inside of the context. But for example, we are now building a conservatory for music in Italy, where the building it's very anonymous. It's just a wall that follow the line of the other wall, and that is no more. So it's about silence, no? So, and for us, it's important to discover when a building should be positive, and when maybe it should be just make a step back.
Step back.
No,
Right.
so this is is really important, and it's in relationship with in which type of context you work.
Yeah. Thank you. Actually, before I take too much of your time, is there a question from? Yes, please.
Hello? Can you hear? Yeah. Okay. I think your work is very, very beautiful. I just worry about one little thing. That is, we come from Asia, where we tend to believe that architecture should touch the earth lightly. That is to say that it should touch the earth lightly.
Lightly. Mm-hmm.
That is to say that it doesn't become too much in your face.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think your early project, the first project you showed us with the plaza in the middle, does try to actually do that. But when you come to the house, at the end, it becomes very monumental and stark. Do you have a comment for that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how to say? I think that we are interesting, or we love to work with mass. No? For example, I don't know, one of my most important reference is the work of Leverens, no? The Sigmund Leverens, the Swedish architect. And his work is basically about mass, about conform, something solid, something timeless in a way. No? So, and this idea to feel the gravity, no, to make the building to feel the density of the building, for us is important. Or I don't know, we are interested in it. Probably also because we are European in a way, or we work in a urban context, no? And also because our tradition is link of this. If you think about the Italian architecture of the last century, it's or even the other cycle, it's about materiality, it's about gravity, it's about density, it's about solidity. Probably because we work in some urban context. So we really didn't talk about how light an architecture should be, how to touch the building. In fact, this is an unusual question, but I'm very glad that you make it me, because for another project.
Right. Thank you. Another question from the floor says, I have to translate. The final project, the house. Okay. The final project and most of your projects. Why did you start with a triangular form? You seem to start a lot with, use the triangular form a lot. What's your idea behind or inspiration behind that?
Yeah. How to say? We for this house, for us was important discover first of all a system. A system.
Yeah, system.
Something able to conform all the pavilion.
Mm-hmm.
When we made the design at the beginning, we had in very clear this idea to conform different simple pavilion. This was very clear, and also how to conform this plinth that that in this case it touch and then modify the land.
It sits on the land.
It artificialized the nature in a way. So this was quite clear. But then we didn't have a clear idea about how to conform this element.
Right.
So for us it was important to have something very permeable, very open in the lower part of the house where you can move through the building. But also the house is quite high. It's almost more than 5 meter height.
Yeah.
So also in order to protect to the sun, and so the idea was to make something closer, so behind. So at the beginning we start to make different type of opening and window in the lower part of the house, and then step by step we discovered that maybe we need something very open on the bottom part, more close in the upper part, and we tried different type of element. At the end, this simple
pattern
could conform all the house. So for one side is this is the history. From the other side, I have to say that also before this project we did another project in Zurich, in Switzerland, where we start to, this project has a very similar typology for triangular to conform
patterns,
to conform that. And in that case, the situation is different, but we had more or less the same program, because that building is just a facade where we need a lot of permeability in the bottom part. So there are some programmatic similarity in a way. And so we start to discover if was possible to use this system also for the house.
Yeah, because we were talking earlier, right? And I was discussing, like you mentioned that you approach each individual project like without pre-existing language in mind, right? But then we kind of talked about the similarity between the dance school, right? The dance school in Zurich and the house, and how it seems that perhaps after 10 years or so, you begin to develop a certain language of your own.
It's true. It's true. Now we are also in a moment where I think that we are in a turning point of our career also, because it's a moment where I don't know exactly, but probably we also are interested to discover or how to create a language starting from the context in a way. No? So now, for example, in the house where there was no hanging point, we need also an internal or our own language in order to create something. No? Yeah. And probably the house is like that also because we made the project in Zurich. We discovered a system able to transform in something more. No?
Yeah, like various situations.
There are more projects with this.
All right.
But I didn't present today.
Yeah. Actually, a friend asked me to ask you this question about your the ROA, the wine control agency project, whether from the town side you go up a ramp and then there's this little wall or tiny mass where there were almost like fragments of older buildings. Were these parts already there, or were they like picked out from somewhere?
No. This arch in the old wall. Yeah. In this site, there was a very old church that was a ruin. So when we did the project, the only, it just exists this wall. So the wall was exactly
Was
there,
there,
in this place.
Right.
But it remains only these two arches with a
Right.
very wall.
Oh.
So, and we basically try to reduce this wall. We, from the other side, we put a small volume, and basically we transform the arches into skylight.
Right, right,
Basically.
right. Okay.
So basically we try to not use this wall just a ruin to represent that there was something there,
Yeah.
but we try to transform in something
Right.
with a function.
That
with a
functions,
notion.
right. Right. I think we still have time for perhaps one more question, please. Anybody? Right.
There.
Oh, there.
Hello, ได้ยินไหมครับ One thing that interesting me is you try to say that you're not try to make your own language of the architecture. But in this world, we can see that many famous architects around the world, some of them they being famous by make their own language, like a stunning building, and they got many clients from their architectural style. But for you, you try to do the other way. Could you please tell us what is the behind thinking of this one? Why you're not going to make your own art special mass of the architecture to be your signature? Thank you.
It is interesting because I present this lecture not exactly like this, but with very just a few modification, very recent in New York at the Columbia, and in Boston, the MIT, and in Lisbon. No? And it's true that there is a huge interest about how to. So I think that the people don't understand exactly if we want to create a new language or not, or our language or not. No? So, and I think for me it's very. So we are really in a very important moment in our career, no? Because after 10 years, so I think that for one side we need to we feel the necessity to work with the context, the specific. We are not able to do any other approach than this one, no? So, and also it's a strong idea that we want to perceive because we want to work in this way, no? During 12 years we work like this, but at the same time, after 12 years of working, when you're facing a project in the nowhere, no? And when I say nowhere, could be a natural landscape or could be working in the central state in US or working in China, or in other not so consolidated
Not a strong
area,
context.
not a strong context.
Right.
How you can work there? It's difficult. It's super difficult for me. And from one side, we are not interested to create just a language. We don't want to have a stamp like a signature. We don't want to produce cars, and this is the same. Not at all. We work against this. But at the same time, when we are sitting to the table and we want to work in this kind of different or new. Now, for example, we are starting work in US. That is a very different condition from Europe. How to work? how to work if you don't have your own ideario. I don't know how to say in English. How to
Ideology or something?
Yeah, no, not exactly ideology. It's like when you have a luggage in the middle of a luggage, you have all your stuff, no? Where you pick up something. It's very difficult, I think. So now I think that it's an interesting moment for us because we very fight to find how to develop a methodology that we follow during 10 years in maybe another type of methodology able to continue working with this idea of the specificity and the context, no? Yeah. But at the same time discover your own vision of things. For this reason, maybe my speak is very confused, but but also for me it's confused because I try to thinking about it. No,
I think
no. But when no, if everything is clear, we are done to speak about nothing because it's clear. No, but if you start to thinking, you need to be confused at the beginning, and then and then you can follow a path. No, but for example. Or I make you another more simple example. The first project, no, the project in Roa, no, this with the tower. Probably this is the most contextual work we have done, no. But then, if you see the last project we did or installation at the Biennale, this is the most autonomous. And at the beginning, I say that we work with a paradox. We are in between of these two opposite conditions, no? So probably we start at the beginning with a very contextualist condition, and now we are evolving into a more independent condition. And maybe the house is a reflect also of this trajectory, the evolution, no? And we are in this point. We will see in the next 10 years what's happening.
Yeah, let's wait and see, right? Unfortunately, we're running like really late now, and have to this becomes really red. So the clock, by the way. So unfortunately, we have to end this lecture on this note, and we look forward to seeing, following your trajectory in the next 10 years, and perhaps we can come back and have another conversation.
Sure. If you invite me, it will be a pleasure.
Yeah, let's come back to Bangkok, okay?
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Barozzi, for the very sentimental philosophy. At the same time, it's very systematic methodology kind of working. That is very impressive. And thank you for Assistant Professor Dr. M.L. Piyalada Tawip Langsiporn. Yeah, now is the time.
แล้วก็ขอบคุณนะคะเฟอร์นิเจอร์สวยๆอีกครั้งนึงนะคะจากคูริโอนะคะแล้วก็หลังจากนี้จะขออนุญาตประชาสัมพันธ์ข่าวสารของอาสาเป็นภาษาไทยนะคะซึ่งทางสมาคมสถาปนิกสยามจะขอเรียนเชิญสมาชิกและผู้สนใจร่วมกันนำเสนอบ้านที่ถูกออกแบบให้สอดคล้องกับพัฒนาการและความเปลี่ยนแปลงในช่วงรัชสมัยแห่งการครองราชย์ของในหลวงรัชกาลที่9นะคะระหว่างปีพ.ศ. 2489 ถึง 2559 เพื่อดำเนินการรวบรวมและตีพิมพ์ลงในหนังสือบ้านในรัชสมัยของในหลวงรัชกาลที่ 9 โดยสมาชิกและท่านผู้สนใจสามารถดูข้อมูลเพิ่มเติมได้ที่เว็บไซต์อาสาแล้วก็อีเมลที่ได้เขียนไว้บนเวทีณขณะนี้นะคะโดยมีขั้นตอนการส่งข้อมูลคือถ่ายรูปบ้านในสมัยรัชกาลที่ 9 จากนั้นสแกน QR code และอัปโหลดรูปบ้านขึ้นไปบนเว็บไซต์ค่ะ
และอีกหนึ่งโครงการที่ขอประชาสัมพันธ์คือโครงการ Halodex Architect นะคะสำหรับทั้งสถาปนิกนิสิตนักศึกษาซึ่งเป็นส่วนหนึ่งของโครงการ อาสา Dialogue นะคะและจะมีกิจกรรมมากมายประกอบไปด้วยการจัดนิทรรศการการอบรมเชิงปฏิบัติการระยะสั้นและการเสวนาเชิงวิชาชีพและวิชาการโดยไฮไลท์ของการบรรยายเนี่ยจะมีสถาปนิกจาก Halodex ผู้ที่ออกแบบสถานทูตออสเตรียมาบรรยายนะคะในวันที่ 14 มิถุนายนนี้และจะมีการจัดเวิร์กช็อปวันที่ 17 มิถุนายนถึงวันที่ 30 กรกฎาคมนะคะสามารถสมัครได้ตั้งแต่วันนี้โดยส่งพอร์ตโฟลิโอโดยตรงได้ที่บริษัท Halodex ตามอีเมลข้างบนpresentation นะคะ vienna@halodexarchitects.com หรือทราบข้อมูลเพิ่มเติมได้ที่อาสาเว็บไซต์ค่ะและสำหรับท่านผู้ได้ทำการลงทะเบียนออนไลน์นะคะช่วยแสดง QR code สำหรับเซสชั่นต่อไปด้วยค่ะ
And we will resume at 1:30 for the afternoon sessions with Studio Switala. So we'll begin at 1:30 p.m. I'll see you after lunch.